What if you could rent a Porsche for under $100 and drive around a road with absolutely zero speed limits? So this is exactly the experience that I had while visiting Munich, Germany, renting a Porsche for under $100 and then jetting off to the Autobahn where there are no rules, there are no speed limits, and it was an absolutely phenomenal experience. If this sounds like fun to you, this is one of the things that I absolutely love doing while we travel is renting luxury cars through an app called Turo.com, where you can essentially rent really nice cars for a day or for a week, however long you want to. One of the cool things about it is you can get some really nice deals. You can get some really beautiful, amazing luxury cars for a really great price. And this was one of the best Turo experiences I had because I've rented a Ferrari, I've rented an Audi R8 before, but one of the biggest restrictions is every time I feel like I'm letting loose, I realize that, hey, if I get a speeding ticket, I could potentially go to jail in some of these places for speeding. But luckily with the Porsche in Munich, Germany, once you get on the Autobahn, the main highway, there are no speed limits, there are no restrictions, and even going like 150 miles an hour, there's still other cars zooming by you on the side. And it was one of these experiences where we rented this car, we drove out to the Neuschwanstein Castle, which is essentially the castle that Disney essentially got his inspiration to build the Disney Castle from. And we just made a day trip out of this for 24 hours, driving around this Porsche, having a picnic, getting some beautiful shots and scenery, driving around the German countryside. And it was one of these experiences where this whole day probably cost us $150 for the car, for gas, and food and everything like that. And it was one of those amazing experiences where every time we go to a place, we try to replicate something like this where we're spending our money and our time doing something very unique. One of those experiences that I'm always going to look back and really love this memory. So I'll go ahead and show you some details about how, if you want to do the same thing, I'll leave a link below in the description to the exact Porsche that we use. Just visiting any location in any country, you can check Turo.com to see what type of deals are out there. Now, if you want to get a discount on renting a luxury car like I did, I'll make sure to leave a free $25 off on your first Turo rental. And again, this thing can work no matter where you are. I've rented Teslas in Miami, I rented a Ferrari in California, an Audi R8 in St. Louis, Missouri. Now there's some amazing luxury cars on there, and it's a simple process to rent these cars. Depending on what your age is, there's going to be some variance on the type of insurance expenses, so do keep that in mind. I believe if you're over 30, you're going to be eligible for cheaper insurance. But again, I haven't had any issues, luckily, with the insurance process, with getting in any accidents or anything like that. And one of the things to consider is a lot of my credit cards include car insurance, but they're not going to include car insurance for luxury cars like the ones I'd been renting. So do keep that in mind. I initially did some heavy research into that because every time I rent a car, I know I waive the insurance because my credit cards have really solid car insurance. So I always opt for that. But in this situation, do your own research, make sure that you're getting the right insurance. It's going to be well worth it just to have peace of mind if something bad does happen. So I've had a really good rental experience with Turo. I would say the pickup process is really seamless. And honestly, I prefer renting a car through Turo versus any national chain. The process just seems to be a lot more seamless. You're dealing with essentially an Airbnb host instead of a corporation. So there's a lot less paperwork. There's a lot less red tape to go through. Within a few minutes, you get the car and then you can jet off. They even have the option to have the car dropped off at your location, which I absolutely love because sometimes you have to travel 30 minutes each way to go pick up a car, and then it just really makes things a lot more of a hassle. So overall, I've really enjoyed the experience with Turo and couldn't recommend it more, honestly, for renting cars and making a really great travel experience. Definitely will leave more information below in the details, and you can get $25 off your next Turo rental. And let me know what car you're looking to drive. For me, the Ferrari was an amazing experience. The Porsche was probably one of the best experiences when you factor in the cost because it was under $100. And the Audi R8 was another fantastic experience. Driving around St. Louis, Missouri in an R8 was a lot of fun. But again, if you're able to find a place like Germany where there are no speed limits, I would say it's well worth renting a car and letting loose on the Autobahn, where you can just go as fast as possible, but make sure you're still being within the safety precautions. There are still speed limits in Germany, but a lot of sections of the Autobahn have no speed limits. So I'll go ahead and leave all those details below. And again, if you made it this far, please consider giving this video a big thumbs up and making sure you subscribe for the 2 new videos I'm putting out every week.